And the problem is that one fiber can kill you.
And that slows everything down and makes even the filming difficult.
Purchasing a boat is actually a quite difficult thing, and based on our experience, I would always recommend to take the boat out of the water.
Hello, it's so good to see you again. I'm Barbara, and together with Daniel I restored a historic sailing ship, Flying Coney. Right now, however, we are in Austria, so we can't work on the ship. So we thought it's a good idea to share with you all the things we learned in 2 years of refitting an old steel ship. Because there are many things we wish we would have known when we started this huge project, like handling hazardous materials, the characteristic of a riveted ship, and how much work such a refit project actually is. And as always, a big thank to all our supporters on Patreon, PayPal and Super Thanks. Without you, we couldn't afford to take the extra time to make and edit these videos. Thank you very, very much for your support.
If I would start with a refit project today, the first thing I would do is to buy an asbestos test kit and test the heck out of the boat. Because we just recently did one of these tests on Flying Coney. And we sent in 5 tests and all of them were negative, which is a great feeling, but it's about 2 years too late and I wish we would have started with this test. Asbestos was used for many different applications on boats, especially for heat wrappings around exhaust pipes, for brake pads of anchor windlasses, for glues on the flooring, for paints, and also for flange gaskets in pipings. And the problem with these flange gaskets is that they used leftover materials, leftover gaskets, way after asbestos was banned. Asbestos is a natural material and it's non-poisonous, but it can cause cancer. And the dangers of working with asbestos are still underestimated. Asbestos is responsible for more casualties than every other work accident combined. And the problem is that one fiber can kill you. But it's not like falling down a ladder, which kills you instantly. It's more like it might kill you in 20 years, in 30 years, or in 40 years. Of course, we did know that there were hazardous materials involved in boat building, especially when the boat is slightly older. That's why you see us wearing the masks and the safety gear all the time. But we just recently learned how many different materials can contain asbestos. So the best thing really is to buy a test kit and test whatever is suspicious. Then you know it for sure. Then you still have to wear your safety gear, but you do have a much better feeling when working on your boat. Well, the next thing we wish we knew when we bought Flying Coney and when we started the refit project is how important the electric system on a steel boat is. Well, we knew that there is a thing called electrolysis, but we thought that on the jetty where we visited Flying Coney and where she was moored for the past 5 years or so, there is no electricity. So we thought, well, what could possibly go wrong? Well, this whole channel is about what could possibly go wrong. So it's really, really important to get your electric system aboard of your steel boat right. And that's why we disconnected or we removed every electric aboard Flying Coney, and we will read a lot and do a lot of research to get the electric system 100% perfect, and then we will measure it, and then we hope it will be correct and that there will be no further corrosion. One thing we really underestimated is how hard it is to find experts to help you in your decision making. When we purchased Flying Coney, we paid a surveyor to make an in-water survey, and in hindsight this surveyor should have recommended to take the boat out of the water pre-purchase. But we all thought that based on the hull thickness measurements and the good-looking photos from 2 years pre-purchase that it should be fine, it should be okay, and that it's a reasonable decision to buy a boat. We didn't know much about large steel boats, and in hindsight the surveyor didn't know much more than we did. There are many different stories about surveys that went wrong, so purchasing a boat is actually a quite difficult thing, and based on our experience I would always recommend to take the boat out of the water. And one additional note on steel boats, we ended up buying a riveted steel ship, and over the time we realized how different a riveted steel ship is from a welded steel ship. I actually love the character that a riveted ship has. I love the optics, I love the imperfections, and it's really an interesting way of building a steel boat. It's kind of a steel boat built like a wooden boat, but you do have much more problems with a riveted steel boat compared to a welded steel boat. It's not that easy to weld the old steel with the imperfections that are in the steel, and sometimes rivets open up and sometimes blade seams open up, and it's just way more difficult to repair. But you do have the great optics, and you do have the history, and you do have the character of the riveted ship, and for us it's worse. But if you're searching for a steel ship, you do have to have in mind that you do have more problems with a riveted ship compared to a welded ship.
We really underestimated the weather impact on our refit project. Obviously, Flying Coney isn't stored in a shed and we don't have any workshop, so all the work is done outdoors, which is fine in the summer when the days are long and the weather is nice. Having said that, this summer had about 1 week of nice weather, all the rest was rain and storms. However, the winter is a completely different story. The days are short and you have to deal with rain and heavy winds and freezing temperatures. And that slows everything down and makes even the filming difficult. So we came to the conclusion that it is better to do the planning and the research in the winter and to do most of the boat work in the summer, when it is easier to make progress and it is also a lot more fun to work on the boat.
When we bought the boat, we knew that there is a lot of work ahead of us and that it will be a lot of work to bring this boat back to life. The thing we completely underestimated is how hard this work actually is. So cheers to the lads who are working every day in a shipyard, who are steel workers, who are construction workers, mechanics. It's a really tough job, and it takes quite a lot of time to get used to it, and you really need to experience this kind of work to get an idea how hard it is. For us, it was a completely new experience. I've never cut a 1,200 liter water tank into pieces. I never had to rip out several tons of interior. I never had to clean out bilge with several thousand liters of oily bilge water. We are still underestimating how long things take. So we still think that something is done in 5 hours and 3 days later we're still working on it. That's how bad it is, and we're getting better in estimating how much work it is involved in certain steps, but it's still always more work than expected. one advice I can give you is that if you plan to refit the boat and live on the boat at the same time, is that you need a place to go if things don't go according to plan. Because out of our own experience, it's quite hard to live on building sites, especially in a shipyard. It's loud, dirty, it's noisy, and everything is on an angle. It slows down the progress. So that's the reason why we decided to buy this camper here, to just have this second options to live in.
We really hope you enjoy our slightly different, more informational videos. However, we can understand if you can't wait to finally see progress on Flying Coney again. And believe me, we feel the same. However, the next projects need a bit of planning and preparation. But I can promise you there is a lot of exciting stuff coming up during the next months. We will build a proper aft cabin with a galley in the wheelhouse so we can finally live aboard Flying Coney again. We want to give our main engine a complete overhaul before our trip to Germany in the spring, so we have a reliable engine. And once we are in Germany, we want to haul out Flying Coney and repair all the broken frames and stringers, so we finally have a structural sound ship again. We can't wait for all this to happen, but we don't want to rush it. So let's be patient and take the time it needs to get everything done properly. And that's all we have time for today. Thank you so much for watching and see you next time.